Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fab YouTube channel, and welcome to Blazing Courage, an exploration slash expansion on OG Zenon's technique by Fatfish. 2. 1. What is this video? This is an exploration on OG Zenon's curse technique, Blazing Courage, and an expansion of what it can look like fully realized. This will include speculation on what the curse technique is, but remains tied to his character. Also, I need to explore some ideas about the OG Zenon. Now, by tied to his character, I mean it's going to fit his power level, fit his personality, and be used to expand on his personality and statements in the story. Here's him fighting Maki. He looks pretty scared here, but that's only an illusion because her mouth there's an illusion of her mouth screaming from the sword movement, but she's probably not that phased by this. Pretty phased, and she nearly got cut in half, but relatively okay. Anyway, aside from that, 2, let's go into what we know. Look at this art. This is genuinely my favorite art of any Zenon. Naoya, even Maki. It's really simple, but you see so much. Like, I love his stance. I love his black, evil eyes. I love his wispy hair. I love how this fire clearly starts at one point in the story and trails out, and then he controls it to form a circle around him, which looks kind of like a simple domain, which will be explained later, but it's amazing. And also the fact that the letters themselves are on fire, that's just so fucking cool. Look, there's fire coming here, and there's a little bit of fire sparks in them. It's just it's a really great manga panel. And anyway, OG Zenon's technique allows him to generate fire from his sword, which can be controlled or uncontrolled. We see him use it like this, and we see him use it in such a controlled state that he can literally make an exact replica of a sword with the same dimensions and barely any sparks of fire. So he's very good at controlling his fire. He can make large waves, or, as I said before, a cunning builder's sword. So, one thing is that the only thing he really does with this technique against Maki is when he replaces his broken sword with a repaired one made of fire, and he cuts her down. Now, this is exactly what Wavy Moon does, or Waxy Moon, whatever it's called. And it's where you replace your sword with cursed energy. And you might think, oh, Gege just got lazy and gave this really simple curse technique to this guy. It's exactly his new sword style. But I think that was intentional. Sorry, I'm drinking some water and I'm got a dry mouth. Anyway, but I think that was intentional because... What I'm about to explain to you. Because I think there's more to that than we've seen. Anyway, enough about that. Whatever. So, what is OG's technique if I fully explored it? Here's him making a fire sword, by the way. So, OG's technique allows him to imbue any item he has with cursed flames. He has full control over it. So, he would first reinforce the item with cursed energy like a regular sorcerer, and then he'd use it as a base for his fire. I think this fits because, one, as I explore soon, his technique is meant to be the fulfillment of base sorcery, not a offshoot. And also, think about it. He has cursed flames. How do you make fire fuel? How do you make cursed fire? Cursed energy as fuel. Like logs on a bonfire. Secondly, he can also call the fire off of his tool and put it in himself through his mouth. And maybe his eyes, or maybe an open wound if he's really feeling a bit crazy. So, have you ever heard the phrase, his heart's on fire? It's like that. Like, he's full of energy, like strength, etc. Like, it would be like a buff to physicals. But my interpretation would be that since fire is a destructive element, and of course since cursed energy is a destructive element at its core, because again it's a fulfillment of cursed energy, it would make it so his durability is unable to be reinforced, because obviously you can't defend something with fire. So it'd be like an offshoot for insane physicals in exchange for no durability. So, as I mentioned on the last slide, his technique is very similar to New Shadow style, and he says something very specific when he's fighting Maki. He cuts her down with his technique and he says, I'm a sorcerer, not a swordsman, which seems a bit odd given that he knows a lot of swordsmen and knows a lot of sorcerers, and his technique is probably the most tied to a sword out of anyone in the whole series. So you might think, wow, why is he saying that? He's pretty close to a pure swordsman. But when you consider that he's not saying that because he's like just saying he's better than Maki, he's a sorcerer, even if that's what he is doing. But he's saying that because he considers himself the pure sorcerer. Because his technique isn't a offshoot of it, it's a fulfillment, a completion of what cursed energy is. And one other thing about this is that cursed energy is forever. Cursed energy will have existed since cavemen existed. and will exist forever through all time. It's not a cultural thing. It will exist in America, Japan, Russia, fucking any country. You could replace the population of Japan, destroy it entirely, and this technique would be the same. And I think it fits perfectly because unlike other techniques which are created in modern times or changed, like Nobito's projection sorcery becoming more film-based as that became the cultural crux, and Hakari's, which is a very modern technique which the traditionalists don't like, Blazing Courage will always be the same. No matter what you do to the world, Blazing Courage will never change, and it fits perfectly for a traditionalist like Oji. And it explains again why he's so proud of it, even though it sucks ass, because again, it's a fulfillment of sorcery and will never change. Drinking, but I kind of got excited about that little brain nuke I came up with this concept, so forgive me if I'm a bit excited about my little work here. So 4, reverse curse technique. What would it look like? He could definitely use it here because look, he got his head cut off. He could fix that with reverse curse technique. Not really, because he's fully dead at this point, but maybe if, you know, he's like really fucking good, he could do it. But anyway, aside from that, the opposite of fire is ice, and the opposite of courage is cowardice. So chilling cowardice. Pretty cool name, right? Obviously, you reverse the fire with ice, so he can imbue his sword with like an ice texture. But the difference is that instead of improving his cursed energy, it weakens the enemy. So how sorcerers fight is by moving cursed energy through their body, right? So if you're struck by this, it would chill the temperature of your cursed energy and make it slower, which means that it would obviously be much more sluggish in combat, which would be really damaging, especially since how many techniques and high level sorcery relies on perfect movement of your cursed energy. If it suddenly changed how fast it moved, it could set off even the most elite sorcerers who are so used to it working the same way. Secondly, he can summon wispy cold fog, and just like how the fire can be inhaled by him, if someone inhales, or how even if he inhales the fog, it would freeze their cursed energy. Now, reverse curse technique is positive energy, and unlike the fire before, which is cursed energy, which is a negative, it is a positive. So my idea is that it's the opposite of inhaling fire. You get slower, weaker physically, etc. But because your cursed energy is frozen, you are literally more solid and thus more durable. Which again fits the fact that reversed cursed energy is reversed cursed energy is positive and thus defensive and heals people rather than destroys them. Anyway, domain expansion. So obviously this isn't really a technique that it fits domain expansions, but I'll just go over anyway. You could obviously do this as simple, there's fire everywhere. Maybe the whole thing is like on, you could do, another idea I had just now actually was that it takes place on the blade of his giant sword and he can set fire to it. That would be really badass, but what I thought of here is something really focused on his cursed energy mastery gimmick. So, ultimate practice ground would transport you to a giant dojo, and the simple fact is there's a 3D simple domain across the whole area. This is useless, but unless you combine it with new shadow style, you see, through evening moon sword drawing, you can attack anyone in your simple domain for free, basically, with rapid attacks, right? But the thing is that simple domain is small and it's a 2D thing, but with a 3-dimensional simple domain, this means that you could swing your sword anywhere and hit them at any angle, at any direction, any angle, in a whole 3D space, which means you could swing your sword across, even from behind a fucking wall, and you would hit someone in the neck every time. And that's what I think makes it a pretty effective domain, is just the fact that it lets you use new shadow style really well. It wouldn't be the best domain because they could obviously defend against it, but still, it would be pretty cool. And again, it fits the fact that this Blazing Courage is meant to be a fulfillment of cursed energy, not its own technique. Anyway, that's the end. This is my second try making this video. The last time I ranted a lot. I ranted a lot here, but I had more ideas and, you know, overall that. I also got some water. So why do I like OG Zenin, and why did I lore craft for him? He looks really cool. He's genuinely the coolest looking Zenin. He has a really awesome art panels. As I said, that manga panel is just so fucking good, where there's the fire trailing around him. There's a lot of love into it. And that's why I'm sad the anime butchered it. He looks like he's a fucking lightsaber wielder, basically. But anyway, he also beats Maki. And unlike Naoya Zenin, unlike him, he actually beats an adult Maki, not a child Maki. And that makes him technically have a better win record against Maki than any other character. Even though it was pre-awakened one, it still counts. So he has that going for him. He also is using Falling Blossom Emotion, which is again a really advanced technique in Cursed Sorcery, and he's using it with New Shadow style stance because again, yeah, it really kind of fits in. I'm actually kind of surprised how like fitting the stuff I wrote is. Anyway, I'll see you next time. It's a pretty strange video, but I hope you guys enjoy. Share it around the world. Thank you.